my lawyer thing, you have the opening statement, and you can't argue. You talk about what the evidence will show. I go, ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, I'm not the finder of fact. You folks are. If I keep my promises, fine for my client. If I don't, I want you to find for the other side. We get a fair deal than that. So what are those airtight, ironclad, rock-solid promises we are so confident we can invite even our opposing counsel to stand up and tell the folks on the jury can't keep them. Closing argument, here's the common sense. Members of the jury, this is my favorite case to try. It's my favorite case to try. Not because of fancy experts or sexy issues. It's because I can rely on the common sense of the jury. Whenever I can rely on the common sense of the jury, juries always do the right thing. It smells right, feels right. It makes sense. That sort of thing. And that's what I want to do. It's just, a lot of lawyers, it's like, I say they do the law school exam trial. Members of the jury, it's my favorite case to try is because of a technicality. I don't understand it. It's very confusing. Doesn't make any sense. It's in Chinese. Not only is it in Chinese, it's in Chinese Braille, but even a blind Chinese person couldn't figure this thing out. And if you're going to try something like that, it's just like, it's not going to do you very well.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, another amazing author on the show. We're going to do some laps together today, and we're going to run through a great podcast episode together as we talk about an author's journey and lots of great stuff happening in the world. Stephen's here with us today. I'm so happy to have Stephen with us. And we're going to just see where we're going to go in this conversation. Stephen, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me, David.
And everybody's like, what is all this running talk, Dave? Well, Stephen likes to run. And it's running on purpose. He's not running from something. He's running towards things. So tell us a little bit about you, Stephen. Where are you in this big world of ours?
Well, I'm in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I have the fortune to be fortunate enough that I'm right on the river, and I run north like it's like a river walk, and I have the New York City skyline, and then the sunrise in the morning. And on my Instagram page, I always post pictures every morning. I take pictures of just the sun or the flowers or whatever. And I actually, in my book, A Grown-Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, one of the things I talk about at the end on effective crankiness, this is just a side thing, because it's part of my run, where I talk about how, when, little kids, they marvel at things, you pick up a seashell and I hear the ocean. Wow, that's amazing. And I see it adults forget to marvel at stuff. Wow, that's amazing. And I say, the more you marvel at things during a day, more likely you'll have a marvelous day. So that's what I try to do. I try to start my morning. I go out for my run, and I notice things that I love taking pictures of a flower that, on that moment, that second, it's like that flower, it's the most perfect. The flower will never be as beautiful as that moment. So I have to capture and marvel close up. How do they do that? It's just colors and shapes. So that's I'm lucky to do that and knows things, and it shows up in my writing.
I love seeing something that doesn't belong somewhere. So a beautiful flower poking through the sidewalk. How is that even possible? People are just going to trample on this. You don't belong here. You belong in a garden, a beautiful garden, but you're fighting for your survival on a busy city street. There's a little piece of beauty that people walk by all the time, and then there's you running along, stopping, taking pictures of these things. I love the picture of that in my mind, of kind of seeing that. I think we need to do that more often, is be aware of our surroundings more and marveling, to your point. We have the Marvel universe, which is all of that stuff. But I think we need to marvel around our universe as much as we can. I like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, especially because I write about crankiness, and it's partly because I do get cranky. So I guess I need to balance it with that Marvel stuff every once in a while.
Well, Okay, so why crankiness? Are you just like a cranky guy, or what is the source of your crankiness?
Well, I'm an attorney. That's
Oh,
my day job,
okay.
and I always explain like law school. The first year of law school, you learn how to get on people's nerves, and then the second year of law school, you learn how to rub people the wrong way. And the third year of law school, you learn how to get underneath people's skin, and we could do all three things at the same time. Uh, like all together. You're a lawyer,
Mm.
and I happen to manage lawyers, other lawyers, and I'm getting up in years. So I've done this for like 38 years. So as an attorney, so so if you're around those kind of people, you're going to get cranky. It's inspires a lot of my writing. There's always something that like just happens in my daily life that will spur on some story or whatever. So like I listen to attorneys, like for example, they talk about I hope for this, I hope for that, I hope the judge will, I hope there's so much hope. And that led to a story. I have Hope for the Best, Crankiness, where, and I started out about little Timmy always failed in his exams. And when his parents asked him, why do you always do so poorly on your exams? He goes, I hope for the best, but I only prepared for the worst.
Mm.
So, and then I actually retelling the story of the Exodus of the Israelites leaving Egypt to go to the land of milk and honey. And it was a brochure. Please be forewarned, while we hope for the best, we'll have only prepared for the worst.
Mm.
So they get to the Red Sea, and they're like, Moses, like, well, where's the cruise ship? I hear your great 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 granduncle Noah, he had like a zoo on his cruise ship. They're like, whoever thought of that? He said, no, well, we hope for the best, we only prepared for the worst. So it's like throughout their journey, it's just like, do you have a map? No map. Well, we hope for the best, we only prepared for the worst. So like stories like that gets created, where somebody was talking about they have an axe to grind.
Mm.
Oh, so I have axe to grind Crankiness, where this character, he had a chicken farm, had no chickens. The chickens crossed the road to get to the other side. The chickens that won't come home to roost, whatever. But he had a lot of problems. So he had no heat. So he was given the axe. He was given an axe grinder, and he kept grinding his axe till he had no axe left. It's just like, down to like. So again, it's like stuff. It always there's always stuff that gets created. Like just one more, a mediator. I do a lot of mediations and negotiation. I teach negotiation, so I go to. I'm at a mediation, and the mediator says, "Don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger." And I was thinking, like, I when I was a kid, I used to be a messenger. I got paid like $3 an hour. This guy gets paid $500 an hour if I need a messenger. I don't need to pay him so much. So and then like I started writing about. I actually did not want to shoot the messenger, but when I wrote the chapter, the messenger got shot. Yeah.
Okay, so as a lawyer, as an attorney, you're writing a lot of stuff. You're doing briefings. You're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Words are your tools. So how do you adapt that side of you into a creative writing process? Is there any similarities, or are they completely different worlds for you?
It's similar. There's some similarities.
Okay.
Because I draw from my legal experience. I have my children's books, which is different, but really, it's I like when I teach lawyers, it's about having a story, and having a story to attach to the lesson. And I find that what you need to learn. You learn it better if the story is right there, and it's just like Yeah, that's it. And then you take it with you. So in my legal world, uh, again, managing lawyers, one of the like sayings, we have to fight fire with fire. I go, oh, this is really interesting. I went to the firehouse and I asked the fire chief what high impact explosives he used to put out fire. I'm thinking about smoking in bed. How much lighter fluid do I have to put on the mattress to like light up? And he looked at it and he says, he actually used water. Who knew? Water puts out fire. This is a new thing. No one ever knew about this before. So, but I again, it's like I put that story and say, like, where's your water? Water is crystal clear, has clarity. It puts out the fire. So, if we're trying to handle a case, I want to know what your water is. I don't care about the fire. Fires usually fire makes more fire. I want the water. So that's an example of that. And I just I had like a story of again like I take different things like I've done The Wizard of Oz. I did Star Trek, where Captain Kirk is interviewing Mr. Spock for the first officer position, and he asked Mr. Spock, "Will you give me your word that you will be loyal and faithful and to the Enterprise?" And he said, "I can't give you my word. I cannot. I will be your best first officer, but I cannot give you my word." And he goes, "That's illogical. Like, I don't understand." So Mr. Spock said on the planet Vulcan, there was a great leader, and he said, "We will take over the planet Romulan." The Romulus, and then Romulans look like Vulcans anyway, and they'll greet us as saviors. And every year, the war kept going on and on and on. And he said, "I will give you my word." And finally, he kept giving his word. You know, if you give all your words away, at some point, you might not have any words left, and you can't communicate. Nothing left to speak. So the point is that, like on planet Vulcan, you have to keep your word as opposed to give your word.
Ooh,
if you give your word, especially if you're a politician, you give your word, it's punishable by death. You know, so again, it's like what I want to do is have a story and be amusing and entertaining and funny and still have like a message to it about, you know, that story is like about the importance of keeping your word, where it really means something.
Yeah. And then I guess within a courtroom setting, story helps for people. If you're dealing with a jury, I would anticipate you want them to feel like they're part of the story so they can place themselves into the story, make the right decision in the moment, whether somebody did something or didn't do something, right? The power of story and how you craft your words can lead people down a path. So you're thinking about, in a courtroom setting, you're thinking about how can I take this and lead to this logical conclusion? That's kind of what you're doing. Is that kind of what you're doing as a writer?
That is well, in my lawyer thing, you know, you have the opening statement, and you can't argue. You talk about what the evidence will show. I go, "Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, I'm not the finder of fact. You folks are. If I keep my promises, fine for my client. If I don't, I want you to find for the other side. We get a fair deal than that." So, what are those airtight, ironclad, rock-solid promises? We are so confident we can invite even our opposing counsel to stand up and tell the folks on the jury can't keep them. Closing argument, here's the common sense. Members of the jury, this is my favorite case to try. It's my favorite case to try. Not because of fancy experts or sexy issues. It's because I can rely on the common sense of the jury. Whenever I can rely on the common sense of the jury, juries always do the right thing. It smells right, feels right. You know, it makes sense. You know, that sort of thing. And that's what I want to do. You know, it's just, you know, a lot of lawyers, it's like, I say they do the law school exam trial. Members of the jury, it's my favorite case to try is because of a technicality. I don't understand it. It's very confusing. Doesn't make any sense. It's in Chinese. Not only is it in Chinese, it's in Chinese Braille, but even a blind Chinese person couldn't figure this thing out. And if you're going to try something like that, you know, it's just like, it's not going to do you very well.
Yeah. And okay, so the one thing we see on Hollywood television and all that stuff, all the lawyer shows. I've been watching Lincoln Lawyer, for example. I love that kind of how they do that show. Anyway, what I love is I love how a lawyer addresses the court. How the lawyer is always seems like they're one or two steps ahead of the conversation that's happening in the moment. Like things are planned out. You can tell when things go off the path, and you can see a lawyer like looking around like, wait a minute, I didn't even know this was going to happen, or this is new evidence, or something new's come into the conversation, and you can see the reaction. Most lawyers seem to be pretty well prepared, and it's like back and forth, back and forth. So for you, as you address the room, what kind of things help you to kind of establish your authority in that space, to kind of go, I know what I'm doing. Your client feels comfortable that they can trust you, that you know what you're doing. We're paying you to do this, right? How do you create that atmosphere in the room that you know why you're there and what you're doing? Because I think that could translate to an author and how they show up to write, and that they come to their writing and that they have this expectation that they know what they want to accomplish as they write, but they could leverage some of your guruism as an attorney to kind of bring that to their writing. There's elements of what you do, I think, could parallel to an author. So how do you set that room? How do you walk in there and you don't know everybody, you don't know all the room, but you want to set yourself up as the authority in that space? How do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, again, when I write, I like to cook. So writing is more like cooking. It's like it needs a little salt. It needs I know the ingredients. Well, I want to get to, and I want to, and the thing about writing and cooking, it's like I think I like to cook, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm really into it. Like I've seen people, I could cook too, but if they're yelling and screaming, yeah, it's not the same. Getting to the lawyer part, creating what you are going to do and how to create presence and confidence. I teach negotiation, and one of the things, and this is what I teach, what I do, I say arguments take away your power. And you were talking before about they're rarely prepared, they're going to argue this, and then they have a response back and arguing this and a response back, and they're all very well prepared. And I say it takes away your power because when you make an argument, no one's ever going to say, oh my God, I'm so surprised. I didn't expect David to say that. I'm going to pee in my pants. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, what will I do now? Is there a white flag? Wait, no. It's people already know your argument and they have the response. So because they already know your argument, they're not going to give you any kind of credit for that. It's just going to be back and forth. I say it's not that you don't argue. It's how do you present it? And I say you have to talk in a factual way. When I have X, the logical conclusion is Y. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you what it is. That you could only have this logical conclusion. Again, it's not argument. If I'm trying to argue the sky is black when it's blue, yeah, you could do that, but when during the daytime on a sunny day, when there's no clouds in the sky happens to be blue. I'm not going to argue with you about that. It just happens to be. And I'm trying to, when I'm looking at a case, is how do we create, what we have to be factual. When we have this situation, this is what we have, and that's how I try to manage that part of, I guess, my career. Sort of not the book writing. That's different.
So talk a little bit about writing for children. Again, this must be a totally different thing that you're not doing in your day-to-day, writing and focusing your attention on a child's interpretation of your writings. How did you learn how to write a children's book?
Uh, I didn't know how to write a children's book.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was kind of like an accident. It actually, my books. I started out. My first book was The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Crankiness. It's a story about the smallest dinosaur on the planet, who who uh, and it's Saurus is the Yiddish word for problems. So it's not Tyrannosaurus, it's the Crankiness. And and the story came about after my wife and I was in Rome, and electricity. We had this Airbnb. Electricity went out, and she had black dye in her eye, and she was like really in pain, and she was very cranky. And I said, "You're like a Tyrannosaurus." And that's probably how all the other dinosaurs died. This one little dinosaur kept cranking out its saurus till all the other dinosaurs couldn't take it anymore, and they dropped dead. So a month later, I had this story, and it's how all humans evolved from this one dinosaur, which is why when you're born you start crying because you come from this particular Tyrannosaurus. So the thing, I just wrote out a story. It wasn't like a story, a kid with pictures, and then went to publishers, and they got me involved. Like, they actually walked me through where you write story blocks and you describe what you want in each picture, which is fun. It's just okay. Like I want this, and then you have in your head what you want, what you see, and the illustrator will do it. So that becomes, and then you get this book that you see what was in your head coming to life, and then my next book, Snoodles, Cadoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles, is just like, it actually came from a very busy time, in my day job. I was just working weekends, working nights, and it was like, I felt like I barely scratched the surface. So there's this character who has to restore this work of art, and he does it by scratching the painting, which is kind of ridiculous. But when everybody walks in, he's like, "You barely scratched the surface." So that was like then it got other parts of it with this, and I was thinking of food and noodles, and then also I started thinking of words that rhyme with a lot of words rhyme with noodles. So that became a story. And my first book, and this is to like people out there wanting to write a children's book. There's nothing more fun than writing a children's book, because it gets more and more fun. And the reason for me is it's amazing is like my first book, I went through Mascot Publishing. They showed me about 75 illustrators, their work. I had to pick the 3 I liked the best, and then they showed me more stuff for the 3, and then I picked Andy Case, who was my illustrator, and I never met him. The book came out. I interacted only with Mascot Books. I never talked to Andy. And then when my second book, I had the story in my head. I reached out to Andy directly, and first it's a lot cheaper to go right to the illustrator than go through the middle person, which was good. But then it became this collaboration where it's like I do my story blocks and he has his ideas, and then we're back and forth and we're talking, and then he'll send me pictures as they go along, and it's like Christmas, like, oh my God, and like, what do you think? Wow, that's amazing. And so now we've done 4 books together.
Wow.
And then it's like, and then it becomes like he wants another one. And, like I write a book. This is the funny thing. It's like I write a book, okay, like and because he's so good, I look at it, it's like I can't do better than that. I can't. I couldn't come up with a story because of the pictures and this is the best I ever do. And he goes, "I'll go gang." So you have to come up with another story, and I have nothing. And all of a sudden, like it just pops in my head. So then, okay, now I have a story, and then I write it out. And the thing about when I'm writing these Snoodles books, I don't want to like write a book and it gets watered down, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just like it has to be. I want every book to be better than the last one.
Yeah.
And I'm able. It's being done. So that's really exciting. And when you get to me, the more you write, the bigger the world becomes. Like I'm creating this whole universe, more and more characters, and my last book, Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, the Zools is right back. So that was it was great. That experience was great when you just have one idea, just one thought, and then like the dust collects, just like and becomes this big ball. So in that book, it's a takeoff on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay, yeah,
and I love the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and what I was watching that. What amazed me was, you had those kids who didn't pay attention to instructions and do what they're supposed to do, and they went off, and you never know what happened. And then Charlie's the good boy, but I was thinking there was a media frenzy there. There was like the first time these kids were going into the chocolate factory, no one was in this chocolate factory, and you had the TV crews, the paparazzi, the newspapers, and these kids, they blue ball or whatever, it's just like they must have been shamed. They must have been in the newspapers or a school, and which is shaming and bullying and all that. It's a problem. So I said I'm going to make those kids the heroes. So right, I have this idea, and then I have to have funny names and funny kind of sort of Charlie Chocolate Factory stuff. So that Frippy Fruppy Fruital has a fizzy wizzy Papadoodle. So first he fizzed, and then he whizzed, and he popped. And Whippy Whiny Woodle has a swizzly twizzly Slimadoodle. So first she swizzled, and then she twizzled, and then she turned into a bucket of slime. But they end up saving the planet, which is it's all very good.
Does any of those words come out in your legal practice at all, or you get to play here as an author? Because those are interesting. Okay, all right. Those are some interesting names. I love that.
Yes. No, I just get to play with that.
You had the chance to meet your illustrator, is that right?
Yes.
Talk about that. Come on.
So he's in Nottingham, England, and I'm in Hoboken, New Jersey. So I fly out to Nottingham just for like a few days and hang out with them. Go and the best thing, the oldest pub, but that's what he tells me. It was opened up in 1138, the year 1138. Ye old road to Jerusalem, and it's in everything. You look, the tables are from like the 1100s. It's what? like really everything is like old there. And you ask for a pint of ale, and it's like pumping. It's not like a tap. It's like, and the beer is delicious. So going out there, just hang out with him, just walking around the Nottingham Castle and doing stuff with and then he just inspires me. So, and then I get surprised. He comes out with an album. He's also a musician, and came out with this album, Leap of Faith. It's on Spotify, and so my next book is inspired by his music. He has this song "Lost Souls in the Dark," where it's just these guitars. You feel like this Snoodle spaceships are zooming through the sky, and break free, like break. Like, so next book is Escape from Zoodle-Traz. So some of our characters are put on Zoodle-Traz, which is like Alcatraz, but it's part of Zoodle. And it happens, so it's music themed. So I have Swifty Swoodle and the Doo-Wop-A-Doodles. Swifty Swoodle is the hottest act on the planet.
Of course.
And she makes a gazillion dollars, on a tour. So Cloodle, the Grand Roodle on the planet Zoodle, hears about this. He goes, oh, I could do this. So he comes down to Earth thinking, because he has his own band, Cloodle and the Grand Roodles, of course.
Of course.
But he sucks. He really sucks. So he gets booed off stage and he goes back to Zoodle in disgrace. The whole tour is canceled. So he plots his revenge. He's just like revengeful, just so he captures these our heroes and sends them off to Zoodle-Traz. So then they have to be saved.
So, Stephen, who is your ideal reader for your books? Can you tell us about like age group and that kind of thing?
6 to 99.
6 to 99. Okay.
Yes, and the one thing that Andy does, there's so much humor in there that like the grown-ups will get, but kids won't pick up. And then there is just fun stuff for the grown, just like the newspaper clippings for fun for the grown-ups. So in the first book, we introduce a Snoodle, and so there's one headline: Snoodle Mania. Snoodle's now bigger than the Beatles. So you have Herbie Snoodleman with 4 Snoodles going across Abbey Road, which is like Abbey Road, the Beatles.
Yep.
It's just stuff like that. And so he does like all this kind of stuff, which with the newspapers, which is so much fun. And again, a lot of that stuff will appeal to the adults, but maybe a kid might not completely get it, even though it's goofy and they'll have a laugh.
That iconic picture of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road. I always say to them, there was 5 Beatles. And they're like, no, there's only 4. But if you look at that picture on the left-hand side, there's a Volkswagen Beetle parked on the side of the road. So technically there's 5 in the picture.
Oh, wow. Wow. I never thought of that. I didn't pick that up.
There you go. A little bonus for everybody. So that's a little party trick if you ever want to do that. You're like, there's actually 5 Beatles in the picture. So there you go. I love that. So how do you balance your job and writing? How much time do you devote to writing? How do you blend this into your calendar to just stay creative, keep writing? How do you make all this work? How do you juggle it?
I don't know. The interesting thing is that why I say I don't know is most of my writing, where like my writing frenzy actually happened when I was most busiest at work.
Okay.
So, and because like so many things were happening at work, I felt like I was during that time I was like a pinball in the pinball machine with a really good pinball player.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. But all that stuff helped create, this outlet where, all of a sudden I have a story, and also just how like just writing on Crankiness. Once I started writing, and then like it got me going. I wrote The Last Surviving Dinosaur to Tyrannosaurus, and one reviewer said I didn't talk enough about overcoming crankiness. It was about embracing crankiness. So I started a blog on crankiness, and that became a thing. I just kept writing and writing and writing until I had like a book, and then I kept writing until I had the second book. But I go out running in the morning. I'll run like 2 hours, almost like every morning, and stuff gets written in my head where it's like, it's great when the characters start talking back to you. So that was a lot of fun. So it just goes in my head, and then once again, it's like dust. It's attaching to something. Once I get like a few ideas, then like with the next run, I, the characters continue to talk and they continue, and they're all brainstorming. It's almost like they're outside their own characters sitting in a room with me, and we're like, how about if I say this, or how about I say this, and and I go, yeah, that's a good idea. So then that finally, by the end of the week, I have a story, and I just start writing it out. So that's how it kind of works. Where that's how, like I manage to write the stuff, and then the other thing, like one chapter in my Cranky Superpowers book.
There you go. Yes.
I just call can't make this stuff up, Crankosaurus. And I had, like, in my day job where you have like a crazy case, and we're talking about that case, and it's like the response is, oh, you can't make that stuff up. You can't make that stuff up, whatever. And I like to turn things upside down. So can't make this stuff up is more like, oh, Dave, you woke up this morning, you had a cup of coffee, and you read the newspaper like you do every day. Wow, you can't make that stuff up. It's the same old routine, same different day, same stuff. You can't make that stuff up. So it's like sometimes you need to make, like, I just encourage people, maybe you should make stuff up.
Yeah.
Just like being creative and see what happens. And you're taking from real life, just when like I take from real life, or I take from like stories that I turn like upside down or massage it in a different way. So like I have Hansel and Gretel. They get eaten by the wild animals, and the father and the grandparents come with presents for Hansel and Gretel. Where's Hansel and Gretel? We have presents for them. We have to skip meals for them. And it turned out that, they said, well, they got eaten by wild animals, and instead of like being saved from the wicked witch, they got actually eaten by wild animals. So let me make them eaten by wild animals. And the father, because they were still hungry, he learned how to hunt. So so for dinner, they get the animals that ate Hansel and Gretel. It's just like, and of course the grandparents, let's eat, I'm starving, let's eat, so they actually got to eat their grandkids in the weird way.
Wow, that's weird. Okay, so as an author though, does creating and writing all these books, does it have an impact on your legal jobs as you'd go back to work and back to focusing on your cases and working with people? Do you see an impact of your creative side coming back to you and serving you somewhere else that you didn't expect?
I think it's the other way. It's my legal stuff that impacts my creative writing stuff. It's the crazy stuff I see in my day job that spills over into my writing. Just my day job, I do use humor I like using humor anyway, and I've been doing this for many years. And even before I started writing this stuff, I wrote legal articles. I wrote on negotiation. How I started writing, I was asked to speak at an accounting malpractice practicing law institute seminar in 1995, and the attorney who asked me to speak also asked me to write 2 chapters for the textbook. And I go, oh, how am I going to write? And he said, if you ever want to be an expert about anything, write about it. So I that really stuck with me. And what I saw in my day job, I kind of wrote down. I just kept writing and writing and writing, and put a book together, a negotiation. My next book actually is more on negotiation and litigation management, which I have titled in my head, "The Defense Can Now Rest." there's a book by F. Lee Bailey, The Defense Never Rests, and I'm more about like the defense can now rest, and the point there, the analogy I make is when I was a little kid, I played a lot of racquetball with my friends, but I was terrible. I sucked, and I would play these guys that are like big, like out of shape, whatever, but they were amazing racquetball players. They could because they could position where the ball goes. Me, I was like running around like this, like a chicken without a head, and like leaping and diving, and I would always lose. And they would just have to stay in one place and hit the ball.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they knew where to hit the ball, and I was left like running and chasing. So I put that kind of philosophy into what we do, where it's wonderful negotiation when you could you make an offer and you know what the response will be, and you know what your response will be, but you know your next 10 moves, and you know what they're going to do, and you know what you're going to do, and it works out. Like you press a button. Yep. That's what I expected.
Where to place the ball, right?
Yes, exactly.
I love that kind of control. In hockey terms, I live in Canada. Hockey, we have retired, but Wayne Gretzky was a hockey player, very famous player, but he always was anticipating where the play was going to be, not where the play was. So he would always pass to where the person was skating to instead of where they are currently. So he's always pushing the play ahead, and he was always anticipating the next 5 moves, to your point. So he was always seemed to be like where everything was going instead of trailing behind. He was always thinking ahead. So I think as authors, lawyers, we're always kind of planning out our next few steps. And if we can live in the future a little bit, kind of Back to the Future type thing, if we can live in the future a little bit, I think we can start setting up how we're going to place that ball so we can run less and be a little more productive, right?
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Okay, so you're writing and writing and writing. I'm curious, as we kind of wrap up, Stephen, for somebody that is in a space where they do need to do some negotiations. You kind of gave us some tips already, but any words of wisdom for somebody who's not as skilled in negotiating through, maybe they're going to sit down and put their book in front of a publisher, or they're trying to find somebody to do their artwork. You're negotiating in all these steps. Is there any specific tools that we can use in negotiations as authors to help make our path a little smoother?
Oh,
Come on.
That's a hard question.
Come on.
Oh, man. Because I negotiate in dollars.
There you go.
And I negotiate, I always say never expect to make a deal because I'm arguing why it's my best deal. No one ever cares about my best deal. I have to make arguments why it's their best deal. And the other thing, just dollars. I want to convince the other side that I'm a loser. I lost. I don't want them thinking that I won. That was going to be the big winner. So I have to put out numbers, making them think like I want to go to X when I really had a number higher than that, where I'm quite happy. But I convinced them that was my top dollar, but they got me go past it. So that's what I do in my day job. So when you're talking about negotiating with a publisher, I don't even know, I never negotiated with a publisher before. I never negotiated with an illustrator before. This is a deal. This you want us to publish, it's going to cost this, so we give you that. If I have an agent and they want to, we'll give you an advance, then I'll get to negotiation. Maybe I'll start doing the dollar thing. But I publish with my illustrator, so I never get to have that kind of negotiation. So, but again, like in the dollars world, I want to appear as the loser. I want to give somebody else the comfort that they got me past. They won.
They won.
That's my big thing. They won. I want them to win.
So what I do, what I love is that you are actually negotiating, like with Andy, for example. Andy wins when you write a book because Andy has work.
Yes.
You win because Andy takes your ideas up in the cloud and puts them on paper. And now you see your characters. So Andy's negotiating with you, you're negotiating with Andy, and you have a working relationship that benefits both of you. So I think in negotiations, we have to always remember that whether you're dealing with a publisher or somebody who's illustrating for your book, you're dealing with people, and people want to be treated with respect.
Yes.
So that's the negotiating side that maybe we can leverage a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing about like in those, whether it's my publicist, my illustrator, I'm creating a relationship. He's like my brother.
Yeah.
He's closer to my brother. I have him in my soul. It's just like, and just how much we love each other. It's just like I want people ask about the money side of writing. You always have a family member. Oh, you're not gonna make money writing a book, and I always say I'm making me. I'm making myself. Like if I never created this, then this is now part of me. All these books, I look at how I did that. Wow, and I'm making Andy. I want to make my publicist. If I become like best-selling author and New York #1 for 50 weeks on New York Times, but I make my publicist. So I represented that. I want to make them.
Yeah.
I start with making me first.
Right.
And I think that's for any writer out there listening. You're writing to make you. And what else is more valuable than that? That's
right.
To me, if you just think about the dollars you're going to get at the end of the day, you're not writing to make yourself. You're writing about, you could go get a job and make more money.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I love the fact that even in that, you still want to make someone else win. You want Andy to win. You want your publicist to win because of your work and your effort and your dream. You don't have to be an author. You have other things to do. But you now have a connection with Andy that you would not have if you weren't an author. So that's a win.
Yes.
That's huge. It's a win for Andy. It's a win for you. It's a great new relationship. I love that.
That's and in this special relationship that my life is so enriched.
Yeah.
Just by that. That's my pain.
Makes you a better person, makes Andy a better person, and we get to see it. We get to support you as readers.
And then I get to meet you too. I get to meet you too on this great podcast. That's gravy. I'm getting gravy now.
I love it. Okay, so Stephen, where do we go to get more about the books? We want to follow you in the future. As more books come out in the future, we got to keep Andy busy. So
yes.
Tell us where we're going to go to stay in touch with you into the future, and kind of let us know maybe when the newest book is potentially coming out of some kind of framework. But where do we go to connect with you online?
StephenJosephAuthor.com is my website. It also has a blog on Crankiness and also on lawyer stuff. So just two separate blogs, all my books. And I'm on Instagram at Stephen Joseph Author, Facebook at Stephen Joseph Author. I think those are the main places I'm at. You can find me, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, Stephen, Crankiness, is it a superpower or is it something that's going to hurt us? What is it?
It's a superpower. It's a superpower.
There you go. And if you're like, but Dave, I want more, that's when you go buy the book, right?
Yeah.
That's how we do that. That's called a hook. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Thank you, Stephen, for this. I'm going to be checking out your Instagram, looking for more photos of you on your run and all the flowers you see and life that you're sharing with us. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. Thank you for sharing these great books with us. I feel a little less cranky and that I can celebrate my crankiness at the same time by having you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Take care.
Hey, thanks for being here for the Living the Next Chapter podcast. So glad to have you as part of our family of listeners. There's a seat for you just here on Living the Next Chapter, and I'm so happy that you have listened to all the way to the end. Wow, you are now my new bestie. I want to let you know that I host 7 other podcasts on top of Living the Next Chapter. Yep, 8 total. One of them is called the How To Podcast series. If you are thinking, you know what, Dave, this podcast thing seems like a lot of fun, well, I'll give you a secret. It is. It's a great, amazing, fun time where you can get to meet great people, get your word out there, promote your book, promote what your coaching program, whatever you're doing. Podcasting is great. And if you want to learn how to do this, what you're hearing right now, head over to howtopodcast.ca and look up the How to Podcast series on YouTube, whatever app you're listening on. You'll find me there. And I'd love for you to come listen to how to do this. And if you're interested and have questions on how to podcast, reach out to me at howtopodcast.ca. Thank you for listening. Talk soon.